Have you ever wondered if humanity has ever been on the brink of extinction? I'm not talking about a science fiction movie scenario with asteroids or aliens. I'm talking about a real event, deep in our past, when our ancestors were reduced to a tiny, fragile group. What if I told you that around 74,000 years ago, the entire human population might have plummeted to just 1,000 individuals? It sounds insane, right? But evidence suggests this wasn't just a possibility. It was our reality. Let's travel back in time to the day humans almost vanished from the earth forever. Our story begins on the island of Sumatra in modern-day Indonesia. Here, a supervolcano named Toba was stirring. This wasn't your average volcano. Toba was a geological monster waiting to unleash unimaginable power, and 74,000 years ago it did. The Toba super eruption was one of the largest explosive events in the last 2 million years. It didn't just blow its top. It exploded with a force thousands of times more powerful than any volcanic eruption in recorded history. Can you even picture that? An explosion so massive it would change the course of human history. The immediate aftermath was catastrophic. The eruption ejected nearly 3,000 cubic kilometers of rock and ash into the atmosphere. To put that in perspective, that's enough material to bury the entire state of Texas under several inches of ash, a colossal plume of sulfur and debris shot up into the stratosphere, blocking out the sun. The sky across the globe would have turned a dark, murky gray. For the humans living at the time, the sun, their source of light and warmth, simply disappeared. Imagine their terror. One day the sun is shining, and the next it's gone, replaced by a perpetual twilight and a rain of fine, choking ash. This wasn't just a temporary blackout. The massive amount of sulfur dioxide blasted into the atmosphere created a global sulfuric acid haze. This haze acted like a giant mirror, reflecting sunlight back into space. The result was a dramatic and sudden drop in global temperatures. Scientists call this a volcanic winter. How cold did it get? Some models suggest a global cooling of up to 10 degrees Celsius or 18 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a huge drop, ice sheets expanded, sea levels fell, and a brutal ice age was triggered, lasting for centuries. So what did this mean for our ancestors, the early Homo sapiens living in Africa and parts of Asia? It meant their world was turned upside down. The ashfall would have poisoned water sources and decimated plant life. Animals, the primary food source for these hunter-gatherer groups, would have starved and died off in massive numbers. The forests they knew would have withered, and the grasslands would have turned into barren, ash-covered plains. Finding food and clean water would have become an almost impossible task. Think about it, every day would have been a fight for survival. The air was toxic, the water was contaminated, and the food was gone. The cold was relentless. Small family groups, scattered across vast landscapes, were suddenly isolated and facing starvation. How could anyone survive this? Many didn't. The Toba catastrophe theory suggests that this event caused a massive population bottleneck. Our species, once spreading and diversifying, was cut down to a tiny fraction of its former size. The genetic evidence points to this dramatic reduction. Studies of our DNA show that all humans alive today descend from a very small population of survivors from this exact time period. We're talking about maybe a few thousand, perhaps as few as 1,000, breeding individuals left on the entire planet. That's smaller than the population of a small town today. 1,000 people holding the entire future of humanity in their hands. Can you imagine the pressure, the fear, the desperation? Every decision, every hunt, every child born was critical. One wrong move, one bad winter, one failed hunt, and it could have been game over for Homo sapiens. We were an endangered species, teetering on the very edge of extinction. So where did these last 1,000 humans survive? How did they manage to pull through when so many others perished? The leading theory points to a few pockets of refuge, likely along the coastlines of Africa. While the inland areas were frozen and barren, some coastal regions might have offered a lifeline. Why the coast? Because the ocean acts as a massive thermal regulator, moderating the extreme cold. Furthermore, coastal areas provided a different kind of menu. Even if land animals were scarce, the sea was still full of life. Our ancestors were incredibly adaptable. They would have learned to rely on shellfish, fish, seabirds, and edible seaweeds. These coastal refuges became little lifeboats in a frozen world. Here, small bands of survivors could huddle together, sharing knowledge, resources, and warmth. They weren't just surviving. They were innovating. This period of intense pressure may have actually spurred on cognitive development. To survive in such a harsh world, you needed to be smarter, more cooperative, and more creative than ever before. What kind of innovations are we talking about? This is the period where we see evidence of more complex tools. We see the development of new hunting techniques, perhaps using projectiles to catch faster prey. We see the first signs of symbolic thought, like the use of pigments for body paint or art, and the creation of simple jewelry from shells. Why would people on the brink of starvation care about art or jewelry? because it builds social bonds, it creates identity. It's a way of saying, we are a group, we are together, and we will survive. It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. These survivors weren't just physically tough. They were mentally and socially advanced. They shared information over generations, passing down the crucial knowledge of which plants were edible, how to track the tides, and how to create better tools. Cooperation became the ultimate survival strategy. Groups that worked together, shared food, and cared for each other were the ones who made it. The selfish and isolated groups likely died out. In a way, the Toba catastrophe might have been a filter, selecting for the most cooperative and intelligent humans. It shaped us into the social creatures we are today. After hundreds, maybe even 1,000 years of this volcanic winter, the planet slowly began to warm again. The ash settled, the sun broke through the haze, and the ice began to retreat. For the descendants of the 1,000 survivors, the world was a new, empty place. They were the inheritors of the earth. As the climate improved, they began to expand out of their coastal refuges. They were tougher, smarter, and more resilient than any humans before them. This small group of survivors, carrying the genetic legacy of our entire species, began the second great migration out of Africa. This time, there was no stopping them. They spread across Asia, into Europe, and eventually to every corner of the globe. Every single person alive today, you, me, everyone we know, is a descendant of this tiny band of Toba survivors. Isn't that an incredible thought? We all share a common ancestry that traces back to a moment when humanity almost blinked out of existence. The Toba catastrophe theory is a powerful reminder of how fragile our existence is. A single geological event, halfway across the world, brought our species to its knees. It shows how interconnected our planet is and how events in one place can have devastating consequences everywhere else. But it's also a story of incredible resilience. It's the ultimate underdog story. Against all odds, we survived. We adapted. We overcame the greatest challenge our species has ever faced. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by a problem, remember your ancestors. Remember the survivors of Toba, the same spirit of innovation, cooperation, and sheer determination that got them through a volcanic winter and a 1,000-year ice age is flowing inside of you. We are the descendants of the toughest people who ever lived. We are the children of the 1,000. What we do with that legacy is up to us. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey back in time. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more explorations into our amazing past. What other historical mysteries do you want to uncover? Let me know in the comments below. See you next time.